Welcome to the deep dive. If you feel like the war against deepfakes is accelerating, you are absolutely right. I mean, the era of grainy amateur Photoshop jobs is long over. We're dealing with these multimodal, high-fidelity fabrications that span video, audio, and, crucially, are being generated across dozens of languages.
And this isn't a threat we can fight with, piecemeal solutions. We need something holistic, rigorous, a systematic defense.
Which is why today we are diving deep into a single, comprehensive, technical blueprint. Researchers are calling it the Progressive Multimodal Deepfake Authentication Pipeline.
Right, and this sounds like a mouthful, but it's not just another research paper.
No, it sounds more like a foundational building code for digital defense.
What
was the overarching mission these researchers set out to accomplish?
The mission is, well, it's ambitious, to build a complete digital media authentication layer from the ground up. And this isn't just a collection of parallel tests where they throw different algorithms at the wall to see what sticks. It's a single, 10-phase, sequential, and non-redundant workflow. Think of it like a master construction project.
So every phase has to succeed and then feed its validated result directly into the next one, like a chain.
Exactly. It ensures a chain progression. And they're testing this entire structure against the really demanding multimodal Deepfake Evil 2024 dataset specifications.
That's the benchmark for the complex fakes being made right now.
It is. They're trying to move beyond just academic models and build a defense system that's actually ready for real-world deployment.
That structure is so vital to understand. So we're tracing this journey from diagnosing a critical failure all the way to validation. Okay, let's unpack this with Section 1, establishing and adapting the core defense. And we have to start with that initial shock of just how bad the existing models performed.
Phase 1 is the foundation. It's the unavoidable wake-up call. They started by simply running standard open-source deepfake detection models.
The kind of models many people still think are effective, right? Like MesoNet.
Exactly, like MesoNet. And they ran them against these challenging in-the-wild dataset specs.
And the findings, I mean, they weren't just bad, they were catastrophic for any practical use.
They identified significant gaps immediately when they moved from that pristine lab bench data to real-world content.
The noisy, compressed, re-uploaded videos we actually see online.
Right. They saw these huge performance drop-offs. Specifically, they cited a devastating gap of about 50% drop in AUC.
Wait. A 50% drop in AUC, that is huge. For you listening who isn't steeped in these metrics, what does a 50% drop in AUC actually represent?
Think of AUC as the single best measure of detection accuracy. An AUC of 1.0 is perfect detection. 0.5 is basically a coin flip.
So
if a model performed well in the lab, say at an AUC of 0.90, and then it drops to 0.45 in the wild, it means the model is now performing worse than random chance.
That's a total breakdown. So their fundamental tools are insufficient for the messy reality of the internet. And crucially, that failure was even more pronounced on non-English content. That weakness, that 50% hole, it defined the entire project that followed.
And that leads directly into phase 2, domain and modality adaptation. The first step was basically damage control.
So how did they try to close that initial gap without just starting over from scratch?
They used those detailed error reports from phase 1, which fakes failed, which languages tripped them up. The goal here was just targeted performance recovery. They adapted the models to the new challenging environment.
How? What methods did they use?
Things like self-supervised pre-training on vast amounts of unlabeled data. So you're essentially teaching the model the new domain without needing explicit fake or real labels for everything.
It's like teaching a student all the general rules of physics first, and then only using labeled data for the last most specific lesson.
That's a great analogy. They follow that up with few-shot fine-tuning on labeled subsets. And this is where you show the model just a few examples of the new tricky fake types, and it quickly retunes. The objective wasn't just marginal improvement. They were aiming for substantial recovery, targeting plus 30–40% gains in AUC.
Just by making that foundational model better suited to the new messy data.
Exactly.
And that recovered model becomes the robust base for the next step, which this is where the system starts thinking multidimensionally. Here's where it gets really interesting. Phase 3, multimodal and temporal fusion.
Exactly. The sophistication of fakes now means you just can't trust a single data stream anymore. If the visuals are perfect, maybe the audio's weak. If the audio's pristine, maybe the temporal flow of the video is just wrong.
So they started integrating video, audio, and those crucial physiological inconsistencies.
Yeah, think about the tiny unconscious tells a human gives off. They looked for anomalies like irregular blinking artifacts. Early deepfakes often forgot to make people blink, or they'd blink unnaturally.
Yeah.
Or audio that doesn't quite sync with lip movements. They use something called cross-attention ensembles to fuse all these cues together.
So when you look at all those factors, audio, video, the physiological tells, did one prove to be the strongest defense signal at this stage?
Yes, it did. The cross-factor analysis showed that video achieved the highest performance among the modalities.
And that's a critical insight.
It is. It suggests that detecting temporal consistency, how things evolve naturally over time, the physics of a scene combined with the audio-visual fusion, provided the most resilient defense signal. Fakers can nail a single frame, but keeping that continuity right across 30 frames per second is much, much harder.
Okay, that takes us into section 2. We're moving from just establishing the core defense to building real-world resilience and user trust, because a model that only works in a controlled environment is, frankly, useless. It has to handle the messy realities of online circulation.
Which brings us directly to phase 4, adversarial robustness and purification. And this is, I would argue, perhaps the most critical turning point in the entire pipeline.
This phase is crucial because the moment a deepfake hits the internet, it's compressed, degraded, covered in noise. If the detection model is too brittle, that noise just acts like a layer of camouflage.
Precisely. The team focused on intentionally hardening that phase 3 fused model against this degradation. They trained it by injecting noise and adversarial examples into the pipeline, basically forcing the model to learn to see the fake signal through the distortion.
Wait, isn't purifying the data before deploying it a bit counterintuitive if you want to catch in the wild content? Why clean it up?
That's the genius of the purification step.
Right.
They weren't just polishing the input, they were using techniques like diffusion reversal. This lets the model unscramble the unique signatures left by the newest 2024-era deepfake generators. It's like reversing the process just enough to see the original manufacturing flaw.
And why was this step, before any higher-level reasoning, so incredibly important structurally to the project?
Because this defense proved to be absolutely vital. What's fascinating here is that the pipeline's peak performance, AUC 0.8217, happened right here at phase 4.
Wow, okay.
It highlights a major structural finding. If you want in-the-wild deployment, you must prioritize hardening your model against real-world degradation, the compression, the noise, before you even try to make it smarter with semantics. Robustness matters more than smartness early on.
That is fascinating. So we have a tough, robust, multimodal model. But a model that powerful, especially one doing complex fusion, is usually resource intensive. That's a death knell for real-time application.
And that leads directly to phase 5, lightweight optimization and edge deployment.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want authentication built into every social media app, every camera, it needs to be fast and small. The heavy model from phase 4 had to be distilled.
So we're talking about taking that powerful engine and shrinking it down so it can run efficiently on an edge device like your phone.
Exactly. They focus specifically on MobileNet-based distillation. This means taking the knowledge from the massive model and teaching it to a far more efficient, mobile-optimized architecture. This step is what enables the real-time authentication that is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, the deepfake is shared 1,000 times before a server even processes the first upload.
Okay, so now we have a tough, small, and fast model. But deepfake detection is inherently adversarial. Users need to trust the system, especially when a model is flagging something as fake. And that's the focus of phase 6. Explainability and uncertainty quantification.
Transparency is paramount for trust. They needed to show their work. For explainability, they use techniques like attention maps, saliency maps, which visually highlight exactly what part of the image or video the model was focusing on when it made its decision.
That's helpful for an auditor. What about the uncertainty quantification part?
That's where they calibrated the model's self-awareness using Bayesian uncertainty. So this means the model doesn't just output fake. It outputs fake, and I am 99% confident. Or fake, but I'm only 55% confident. It rates its own confidence level.
So what does this ability to measure confidence mean for deployment? What's the practical benefit for you, the listener?
It allows for highly strategic deployment. They found that predictions made with high certainty, which was a big chunk, about 43.8% of the samples, achieved a superior performance.
Better than the overall score.
Yes, an AUC of 0.8258 compared to the overall 0.8200. So if model is highly certain, you trust it completely. If it's uncertain, you flag it for human review or just block its distribution until a manual check is done. You focus human resources on the hardest cases.
That makes the system incredibly efficient. Now moving into section 3, phases 7 through 10. Here, the researchers start integrating this refined detection engine into the broader digital standards ecosystem. Phase 7, hybrid provenance ML integration. This is where technology meets policy.
This moves beyond just technical detection and into forensic verification. They combine the machine learning system with industry-standard provenance checks.
Provenance, so the history and origin of the content, a digital chain of custody. What specific standards were they linking into?
They integrated mechanisms like hash verification, that's a content's unique digital fingerprint, and metadata standards like C2PA.
C2PA, that's the Content Authenticity Initiative. A lot of companies are pushing for that now. How does that link practically help the ML detection?
It creates a powerful synergy. The ML model catches a known flaw or artifact, while the provenance check confirms the content's source history, or lack of one. They even used graph neural networks to trace content back. If the ML says probably fake and the provenance check says no verifiable source metadata, your confidence just skyrockets.
Right. Next, phase 8, advanced semantic and contextual reasoning. This is where they finally move past focusing on visual glitches and start looking for intelligent conceptual flaws.
Correct. We're moving beyond weird blinks or inconsistent colors. They started asking, does this video even make sense? Does it violate common sense? They fine-tuned powerful vision language models to look for these contextual inconsistencies.
Can you give us a concrete example of a contextual inconsistency the system would look for?
Absolutely. Think about a video of a politician giving a speech. A pixel-based detector might not find a flaw, but a semantic reasoning system might realize that the background monument in the video doesn't logically exist in that city, or that the person is speaking with an accent inconsistent with their known linguistic habits. It's a shift to video-level and multi-label analysis, where the model understands the meaning, not just the pixels.
That's truly advanced. Now, phase 9 addresses long-term relevance, dataset curation, and active expansion. The arms race means the benchmark has to evolve.
A static defense is a dead defense. The pipeline has to be dynamic. They incorporated a crucial feature called active learning. This is where the current model identifies samples it finds most challenging or uncertain, the new sophisticated fakes it struggled with, and those samples are immediately prioritized for annotation to expand the dataset, so that the defense is always learning from the newest attacks.
And finally, phase 10, human AI validation and societal deployment. The capstone, bringing it all together.
This is the moment of truth. They fused all prior enhancements, robustness, explainability, semantics, provenance, and validated the end-to-end system against human baselines to confirm the automated system was outperforming people.
And what was the final validated score of this whole comprehensive pipeline?
They demonstrated a systematic quantitative improvement of 3.2% AUC, moving from that catastrophic phase 1 baseline AUC of 0.7966 to the final validated AUC of 0.8217, which was achieved back at the peak performance stage in phase 4.
A 3.2% improvement might sound small, but given the difficulty of the data and the scale of the challenge, that systematic gain represents a huge recovery in confidence and accuracy. It confirms the methodology.
It demonstrates that the entire rigorous approach works, which leads us to the final and really crucial section: validation and the caveat.
We established that the methodology was intensely rigorous. You said the 10 phases were subject to 26 different checks?
That's right. They were determined to prove the process was sound. The pipeline was subjected to 26 comprehensive robustness checks, and it passed 18 of them. That's a 69.2% pass rate. They included cutting-edge verification techniques like randomized smoothing certification. They basically tried to break their own methodology in every conceivable way to prove its stability.
But this rigor comes with a really important self-imposed limitation. This raises the big question. What is the foundational caveat the researchers were absolutely clear about?
This is critical for you to know. The entire analysis, all those performance numbers we just cited, the 50% drop, the 3.2% gain, the peak AUC of 0.8217 and all of it used synthetic demonstration data that was based only on the Deepfake Evil 2024 specifications.
So they proved that if their methodology is applied to data with those specs, it works, but they haven't yet tested this against the actual live deepfake data that is gated and circulating.
Precisely. The results demonstrate the methodology only. They should not be interpreted as actual guaranteed performance numbers on real deepfakes out in the world right now. They prove the chained approach is structurally sound, but the real-world efficacy is the next and final test.
So what does this all mean? We've seen this systematic path from acknowledging a critical weakness, that devastating 50% AUC drop to building an integrated 10-phase defense, a system that achieved its peak performance only after focusing on adversarial robustness. They learned they had to toughen the immune system in phase 4 before teaching it advanced language in phase 8. We watched them integrate everything from spotting subtle blinking artifacts to adhering to modern provenance standards like C2PA, leading to that measured systematic improvement.
And while this methodology provides a robust, transparent, and rigorous foundation for future deepfake detection, it forces us to confront a long-term computational trade-off. What happens when the analytical solutions required for real-time multimodal fusion checking video, audio semantics, origin degradation all at once become so computationally demanding that they're mathematically intractable?
That sounds like a terrifying computational wall. If you have to check 10 complex steps for every single image uploaded, the system will instantly grind to a halt.
It will. And that race against time means future research suggests we might have to rely on intellectual shortcuts. Using techniques like surrogate models or statistical proxies, we might have to find an approximate answer fast enough just to keep the authentication system running in real time. That necessity, prioritizing detection speed over absolute analytical certainty, that's the real long-term challenge of the future of deepfake defense.